Hey y'all, it is Monday morning. You remember how on Monday mornings, when we woke up, we were just kind of filled with dread. The start of a 5-day week. Well, I must say that the majority of time that I worked in my life, which was over 46 years, way over 46 years, most of the time I had jobs that I really liked. Now, when you have ADHD, you're very good at starting things, but it's difficult to finish them, okay? So, and I always liked a challenge. I liked to learn new things. So I would get a job and I would work at it and I would learn it. And that was very exciting. But then when I got bored, it was hard to stay. It was very hard to stay. So needless to say, I did quite a bit of job hopping, which is common with people that have ADHD. So I actually, like I said, had more jobs that I liked than I had ones that I didn't like. I'm going to talk about my job with the law firm. Now, I found myself single. I had a little boy. My older son was very young, and I was staying with my sister and her husband and 2 little kids. So I definitely needed to get a job. So I would get up every morning, get myself all presentable, grab the newspaper, and start looking. Back in the day, that's how we found a job, either word of mouth or the newspaper, which I must say, you had a much better chance of getting a job back then than you do now. I talked my way into jobs that I was absolutely not qualified for. Case in point, being a office manager, full charge bookkeeper. I had never done that, you guys. I had never even managed anything at that point. But I saw this job. You could belong to the union. I don't, care how y'all feel about unions. The only thing that I saw was benefits. Okay? I was single. I had a little boy. I needed benefits and I needed good pay. So I got myself all gussied up and I went down there and I had an interview. Now I interviewed with the gal whose place I was going to be taking. So we interviewed, we talked and all this stuff, and she said, well, Jim's not doing interviews today, and he was one of the 2 partners for the law firm. So she said, but I'm impressed with you. I'm going to see if he will talk to you. Why she was impressed, I don't know. But I could talk some BS back then, y'all. I never outright lied, except for the fact I always put on applications that I graduated high school. That's a whole other story. I did not graduate high school. Another case of severe boredom. So anyway, he said, okay, bring her in. I could hear him through the door. I was so nervous, you guys. You know that term, sweating bullets? Well, I was. And I don't sweat, you guys. I'm a lady. I perspire. Just a little. So anyway, I went into this big, huge office, and there was this big, huge man. He was dressed in a large print Hawaiian shirt. Now this was in Arkansas, you guys. So anyway, I sat down. He was a very gruff man, had a big beard. You could smell pot in his office. He wasn't smoking a joint, he didn't have a pipe, but you could just barely get a whiff of that. Now, I grew up around drugs, pot, alcohol, so I know what pot smells like, okay? Anyway, I interviewed with Jim, and he kind of went over, you know, some questions. What would you do in this case? What would you do in that case? So I answered very truthfully. And after I answered a few questions, I thought, whoa, I might have been a little too honest about that, or forward. And so I hear a siren, but I don't see a thing. It's probably on the other side of the road. Let me just pay attention here for a minute. Yep, it's gone. So anyway, I thought, oh, I blew it. So I went home, and when I got to my sister's house after I picked my little boy up from the sitters, the phone was ringing. We didn't have cell phones back then, y'all. So anyway, the phone was ringing, and I answered it, and it was the gal that I interviewed with. This was like on a Wednesday or a Thursday. You know, I don't remember everything. But she said, Jim wants you to start on Monday. Oh my Lord, you guys. I get goosebumps just remembering how incredibly blown away I was and nervous. And I hung up the phone, and I was hugging my little boy, and I was crying, and he didn't understand that at all. He thought I had a boo-boo. So Monday morning rolls around, I get gussied up again, and I show up at the office. Well, Jim wasn't there. He was a workers' comp attorney. And the other attorney was a slim, dapper gentleman, and I forget what kind of attorney he was, but they both traveled quite a bit. I met with him that day. His name was John. Very, very nice gentleman. So this gal, she started showing me the ropes. Well, she was only going to be there for 3 days to show me everything. I mean, I was so nervous, you guys. And most of the time, she was on the phone with her friends. She was going to lunch, long ones, with her friends. So she barely gave me any training. I started getting bad tension headaches. So she left. The attorneys were both out of town. I was there by myself, trying to figure out what the heck I was supposed to do. There were all these ledgers, debits and credits, totals, all this stuff I had never even seen before, y'all. So the first thing that happened was the office staff, the legal secretaries, the paralegals, everybody that worked there that you can imagine, they started coming into my office, which was a mess, you guys. It was horrible. I can't stand mess. But they started coming in, and what they wanted to know was, are we going to get paid on payday? And I said, well, of course. And they said, well, we just want to tell you that a lot of times our paychecks bounce. I almost passed out. I was sitting in my chair, freaking out. Why are paychecks bouncing? Was mine going to bounce? Nope, because I was going to write it. But I had to write everyone's paychecks. I had to figure their taxes. You guys, to say that I was in over my head it doesn't even touch it. I was so far beyond my capability. I mean, I was crazy. My headaches were unrelenting. Okay, so what I needed to do first was clean the desk out. You open the drawer, there's crap all in this desk drawer. So I started rooting through it, loose paper clips, pens, pencils, erasers, jaws. I mean, you name it, loose change, it was in there. So were 2 checks that should have been deposited in the bank. Big ones. So, I got those checks deposited. They weren't quite enough to cover payroll, but they were going to help. Now, I didn't have much interaction with John at all, but I had quite a bit with Jim when he was in town. And this is what he told me early on. He was paying alimony, you guys, to 3 wives. 3. No child support. Thank the good Lord. But he told me, he said, when I'm on the road, I'm going to call you, and I want you to have a total of the number of checks that come in the office. And then I'll tell you how much I want you to deposit into my personal account. He was sucking the money, you guys. No wonder paychecks were bouncing and creditors were calling. I mean, it was the craziest thing that I had ever seen or ever would see. Well, I can't say ever, but close. Anyway, after about 3 weeks, I met with the accountant, whose name was Mr. Honey. Now, I'm going to tell y'all, accountants are their own breed, okay? They stay holed up in an office crunching numbers all day long. They don't usually have a lot of face-to-face interaction with people. Most of it is on the telephone. At least that was my experience. So I met with Mr. Honey. I had questions for him. How do I do this? How do I do that? He looked at me and he said, "You've never done this before, have you?" I started laughing. I said, "Isn't that obvious?" So anyway, he said, "Call me anytime with questions." I said, "Okay, I definitely will." So I started figuring out some stuff, you guys. Now, clients mailed in checks. And I'm going to tell you, they weren't checks for $500. They were checks for $3,000, $5,000, $10,000. So, and some people were not paying us. So I had to call delinquent accounts. Okay, you guys. This is how I made sure that all of my staff was going to get paid. I started lying and I started embezzling. Now, I was lying to Jim and I was embezzling from his own money. So when he would call me when he was out of town and he would ask me how much was our deposit, he called me every day. I would lie to him and I would shave off, depending on how much the deposit was, I'd shave off $500, $1,000, $1,500. Now, was I nervous about that? Heck yeah, I was. But there was no way I was going to let these people be unpaid for their work. Every one of them were nice. They were deserving to get paid. So, when first payroll came around and everybody got their checks, they were coming into me and thanking me profusely for paychecks that were not bouncing. So, I was nervous as all get out. I was afraid that Jim was going to ask me to actually look at the bank accounts, that he was going to go over the ledgers, but he didn't. He was so self-absorbed. Now, let me tell you guys, the perks to that job were, one, I was learning a skill that I had never had before. Secondly, unless I was meeting with somebody, a vendor, a client, I wore cut-off jeans and flip-flops to work. So, I had a little system with the staff. If my flip-flops were outside my door and my door was closed, don't bug me. And they didn't. They were very respectful. But you guys, I needed peace and quiet and no distractions, because ADD brains are firing. Your cells ricochet around in your brain and you cannot concentrate. So anyway, to me, that was a real perk. Did I have a lot of cut-off shorts, blue jeans with the fringe on them? Oh, heck yeah, I did. In fact, that was just about all I had. So I didn't have to spend a lot of money on a wardrobe. So, things were going along. I was starting to clean out file cabinets that had 10 years worth of crap in them. I was more relaxed. I was so happy in my job. I loved it. I was very friendly with the office staff, the receptionist. And let me tell you, that receptionist, she was a crazy gal, y'all. Her story is almost one in of itself. But anyway, she first noticed, she and one of the legal secretaries were pretty tight, and we would have lunch together. Now, her name was Amy, and she said, "Deborah, how come there ain't no bill collectors calling us?" She was a black lady, fairly young, and a riot. She was a riot. And I said, "Well, I don't know. I guess, we're paying our bills, and so they're not having to call us. How we paying them bills? I said, well, by check. So anyway, you guys, I was able to get that law firm back in the black. At one point, the airlines, American Airlines, refused to give us airline tickets. Yeah, I had to make travel arrangements. They weren't going to give us credit anymore, but I got them paid off. Now, Jim was like, wow, what's going on? Nobody's coming to me and complaining about their paychecks. I'm not getting any calls from creditors. Are you blocking those calls for me? I said, yeah, Jim, you're a busy guy. You don't need to be bothered with that. I can handle it. You guys, should I have been put in prison? I was embezzling, kind of, but for good. So anyway, I loved my job so much. I went to Ann's wedding. She was the legal secretary there that I was friends with. I loved everybody there. I got things organized. We had a huge supply room. You didn't know what you had and what you didn't have. So it turns out things were being ordered that we didn't even need. We were spending money that we didn't need to. Now, you guys, that was one of the best things that could have happened to me. It built my confidence, which I didn't have much of, and my self-esteem. Now, I was married to Leslie at the time. Now, when Jim was around, you can almost get a contact high from that guy. Now, I did things like take his car to the car wash. I picked up his laundry. I went to the pharmacy and picked up his medication. Did I care? No. I was making good money. I had awesome benefits. I got raises when I should get raises. Everybody was happy with me. I was happy with myself. I was proud of myself for getting through that, for learning, for getting that law firm back in the black. That was quite an endeavor, let me tell you. I quit caring whether Jim found me out or not. I didn't care, because by that point, what on earth could he complain about? I don't know, he could have had me thrown in jail, I guess. But that was the job I had when I was separated from Leslie the first time. That's when the elders in my church told me I had to go back to him. I was married to him. It was biblical. I did a lot of praying. I did a lot of soul searching. I was literally on my knees begging God to give me what I needed to be a real wife to him. So I quit my job. We were all crying. We were close. I loved it there, you guys. It was so much security for me and my little boy. Not that I had any doubts that Leslie would provide for us, because he did, and very well. We lacked for nothing. And you guys know how that marriage ended. I lost that wonderful, wonderful job. It was pretty devastating to me. It was a long time before I ever got another job that good. So, there is no point to this story, you guys. I did what I thought I was supposed to do. I took the counsel of the elders to know what was best for me. I was a young woman. I'd already screwed up twice with marriages. I had faith. I had faith that if I did what was biblical, it would work out. It didn't, you guys. You know that. And it broke my heart that it didn't work out. I still love Leslie to this day. I would have done anything for him. But that's the story of my job with the law firm. And I'm going to tell you, there's a couple of people that have said, oh, you just make stuff up. You embellish. Guys, you can't make this stuff up, okay? If it didn't really happen to you, I'm not creative enough. I never was a good liar. You could always tell if I was lying, usually, if you were paying attention. So, I'm not making anything up, you guys. That's exactly what happened. That's how it happened. And I hope you guys laughed with me. I mean, there was nothing like sitting in the office with a connecting door next to a huge dude that smoked pot all the time. I don't know how he functioned, you guys, but I don't know. Maybe I'll be able to tell you that firsthand. Do something fun today. I probably am not going to get this video up in time for you to pray for me. Today's the day that Tank is going to his new owner. I ain't lying, you guys. It ain't easy, okay? For this old gal to give up this little home that has been so wonderful to me. But I believe that God is going to bless me with the right van in the right condition that I can afford. So we'll see. It's very interesting. And I am always, that's the thing about life, is that things happen every day. Sometimes they're not good things. Sometimes they're bad things. And sometimes we get a nice surprise. Y'all know what to do. Have something fun today. Stickers are coming. Mango's mailing some to me today. Now, I'm going to try to set up, there's a way I can put a little PayPal link just for the stickers where you guys can just pay for your sticker, and it's really easy. If you don't have a PayPal account, don't worry about that. Just mail it in. But anyway, I love you guys so much. And I hope that I can continue to encourage you. I do pray for you. I want to encourage you in some way. That makes me so happy. And thank you for being part of our wonderful community. I'm going to help Mary Jo right now. I'm in the parking lot, and we're going to move her mom back home today. She's not going to the board and care. I am so happy about that. So, love you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye now.